Hello bunnies and welcome to the book club reading vlog for September. So this month we are reading The Strange Case of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde by Robert Louis Stevenson. Sorry, I'm doing the classic thing where you get your nails done and then it's like, well actually I didn't get my nails done because it's my selling press-ons, but anyway. All human beings as we meet them are commingled. Ooh, that's an interesting word. Out of good and evil. I haven't even read the synopsis to be honest. A London lawyer is drawn into a series of strange occurrences concerning his old friend Henry Jekyll and the despicable stranger Edward Hyde, a man who seems to epitomize the very meaning of evil. I'm gonna describe my enemies like that now. What is Hyde's mysterious hold over Jekyll, and what is the reason behind Jekyll's increasingly odd behaviour? The investigations will lead into the dark heart of Victorian London and human nature itself as the shocking truth about Hyde's true identity is finally revealed. So this is a thrilling exploration of the interplay of good and evil and the terrifying duality that lies within us all. I'm so excited.
Yeah, like, do you know the story? Do you know anything about it?
I mean, I think there's some... Oh, actually. I think it might be like they're the same person or something. Anyway, I don't know. But yeah, that's all I think I know. So I have been seeing people say in the Discord that there are a lot of words that they don't know because obviously it's like Old English. But thankfully my edition has classic literature words and phrases in the back. It is quite long. But yeah, maybe I should actually mark that so I can easily go to that if I need. Chits! That sounds like a slur.
What is it?
Chits. It says chits. It's a slang word which means girls. I hate affected niminy piminy chits. I don't like chits. Don't you dare call me a chit, anyone. So yes, Caitlin is on FaceTime and we are spending the day reading it together. Caitlin has already read it actually in university, but you don't really remember anything, do you?
No, not really, no. I'm excited. I just remember loving it.
Stunning. We are planning to finish it today, like in one sitting, and it's only 88 pages long, so shortly. Anyway, of course, I will keep you updated with all my thoughts, but I'm really in the classics mode. Like, I'm currently reading the Count of Monte Cristo, loving it, and I'm just really... Oh, and then next month we're reading Rebecca. I'm so excited. Yeah, no, I'm literally so excited for this classics era.
Oh my god, the back of my coffee says, a chapter on dreams and a gossip on romance. Discuss artistic creation and the romance form. Let's go.
Oh my god. Okay, shall we begin?
Yes, please.
Okay, so I just finished the first chapter. Hyde is seen calmly trampling a kid. Like, what? I was not expecting that. So he, the man, trampled calmly over the child's body and left her screaming on the ground. Like, what? And then also, the next line is, it sounds nothing to hear, which, what are you talking about, widow? But it was hellish to see. Yeah, it sounds hellish. Like, why is Hyde trampling a child? Like, obviously, you know, he's described as being evil. But
that
what?
Scream part of the sentence is like, wow, because the contrast of that image of like someone being like the victim of a horror moment, like being in such pain and they're screaming for their life, and the perpetrator of the violence is calm, that is chilling. Like, that contrast is just always chilling in like movies or whatever. Oh.
No, I just realized that needs to be my first tab for evil / horror. I'm so confused by that line. It sounds nothing to hear. What are you talking about? That's horrifying. Because also I felt a bit gaslit because I read that and obviously I was like, what the hell? Then I read it sounds something to hear, so I'm like, did I read that wrong? But I'm like, no. Like, what do you mean? Terrifying. Anyway, then there's a mention of this house. I wonder if that's Hyde's house. So there's like a house and it's a bit mysterious. They say that the windows are always shut, but they're clean. This is me spying on my neighbours, by the way. There are some of my neighbours who always have the windows shut and I'm like windows and blinds, and I'm like, oh, what's going on in there? Anyway, there's a chimney which is generally smoking, so somebody must live there. So yeah, I wonder if that's Hyde's house. Enfield and Addison are talking. I wonder if there will be like main people, because I thought it would be like from the perspective of Jekyll and Hyde, but obviously we're currently following Enfield and Utterson and they're just talking about Hyde. So I wonder if that will be like the vibe for the whole book, but we'll see. Anyway, so Utterson says, what sort of man is Hyde? And the way that Enfield describes him is really interesting and fun. He's like, he's not easy to describe, there's something wrong with his appearance. I never saw a man so disliked, and yet I scarce know why. He's a mysterious weirdo, that's for sure. Also, another thing I really like about classics is it's always funny. You know, I just find the way, like the old phrases and stuff, just really funny. Like, I'm ashamed of my long tongue. Like, just little like chuckle moments every now and then I love. Oh, chapter 2, search for Mr. Hyde. We're searching. Okay, I've literally just started chapter 2, but I obsessed with this book, and Caitlin was just saying like her tabs are like, you know, evil, funny, like how many books have that fun tabbing system? And obviously I love to laugh. I love fun, evil horror stuff. Like maybe this is my perfect book. I also love it because I am a snooper. I'm always spying on my neighbours. I just love to be nosy and see what's happening. Obviously I'm not going to do anything about it. Like, it sounds creepy, but I'm sure if you're here, like, you know me, like you obviously know I'm not being a weirdo. I mean, maybe it's a weirdo, but I just like to know things. But I'm not going in anyone's house, don't worry. Just in case anyone on the FBI is watching this. But yeah, so obviously Utterson is a curious cat like me. Also, did you know that Kevin told me last night? The classic saying is curiosity killed the cat. But a lot of people forget the other part, but satisfaction brought him back. Exactly. Yeah, so Utterson, he is curious and he is like, okay, seriously, what is going on? So he is making his mission to find out. And obviously he has like the tie with Dr. Jekyll because that was his friend. But yeah, no, like I love that. And obviously at first I was like, oh, is it going to be told from his perspective? Like that's kind of annoying. But no, I really love you, Utterson. Like, obviously I'm only on page 12, but I love you. Like, he's so fun. And I really loved in the beginning of chapter 2, it talked about his Sunday routine, and he when he finishes his meal, he sits by the fire, he reads a little bit until the like church bell rings at 12. And Caitlin was like, 12's a bit late on a Sunday night. And then he'd go to bed. But on this night, he actually took up a candle and went to his business room and he got Dr. Jekyll's will out. So basically the will says that all possessions are to go to him. But it also says, but in the case of Dr. Jekyll's disappearance or unexplained absence for any period exceeding 3 calendar months, what the hell? That is so mysterious to put that in your will. That Edward Hyde should step in Henry Jekyll's shoes without further delay. What's that about? And then, oh my god, funniest line, it says, it offended him both as a lawyer and as a lover of the sane and customary sides of life. So I have introduced a hilarious tab because that is actually hilarious. But yeah, so very interesting. Caitlin just let out the biggest laugh scream. This is hilarious, this book.
That is the funniest thing ever.
Can you say it or is it like spoilers?
No, I want you to experience.
Okay, yeah. I feel like already this is the most we've ever laughed reading a book.
Genuinely.
Like what?
And like literally a page before that I was like, wow, the writing, and then absolutely cracking up a page later, like
Ooh, blows out the candle and sets forth to Cavendish Square. He's on a mission. And what does not always follow men who thoroughly enjoyed each other's company?
no, how funny was that secret? We're old friends, old mates. Nothing to see here, guys. Just good friends.
That is so funny. And exactly, he sprang up from his chair, like so.
No, I loved that as well.
It was a night of little ease to his toiling mind, toiling in mere darkness and besieged by questions.
Yeah, I highlighted that line. Love it. The whole next passage. Love it.
He's literally like, what's going on?
Katie, got it?
Is it the Mr. Seek thing? That's hilarious. Like, surely they're trying to be funny.
No, it's hilarious. It's gotta be deliberate, right?
If If he be Mr. Hyde, I shall be Mr. Sink. Oh my god.
It's classic.
I actually love Victorian London. Oh my god, they met. Mr. Hyde, that is my name. What do you want? I actually love classics. I don't know. I actually do need to read them all.
You love them.
I do love them.
You love them.
Seriously.
It's kind of like poetry where it's like, if you don't like it, you just haven't found the ones for you, you know?
No, exactly. Will you let me see your face? Okay, so I'm up to chapter 4. So basically, Addison has been waiting in the streets of London to try and catch Hyde. Oh yeah, sorry, before I get into that. Funniest line. If he be Mr. Hyde, I shall be Mr. Sick. So funny. Anyway, so his patience pays off and he finally sees Mr. Hyde and then he's like, Mr. Hyde, I think. And Mr. Hyde's like, that is my name, what do you want? He's like, will you let me see your face? And he's like, yes. And he said, you should have my address. Good God, thought Mr. Addison. Anyway, and he's like, so how do you know me? And then Addison's like, well, we have common friends. Like, common friends, okay. Like Jekyll, for instance. And then he just disappears. And he is so spooked by Mr. Hyde. He says that he has an unknown disgust, loathing, and fear towards him. He's like, there's something more. Like, clearly there's more to it. Like, he's just really perplexed. And he literally, it says, oh, Harry, Jekyll, if ever I read Satan's signature upon a face, it is on that of your new friend. Yeah, so, and then he's just so affected. Like, it says that he rarely has, you know, a nausea and distaste of life, but he has it now because he saw Mr. Hyde and he's just so disgusted. And he's just so confused why Mr. Hyde and Jekyll are friends. So then the next chapter, chapter 3, is literally called Dr. Jekyll Was Quite at Ease. So they're really cute besties. I thought like he hadn't seen Jekyll in years, but suddenly they're just like, oh, hey. Addison is like, you know, I have been learning something about Hyde, and Jekyll grows pale and there comes a blackness about his eyes. And Jekyll says, I do not care to hear more. Very interesting. And if I'm correct, it is the situation where Jekyll and Hyde are the same person. I'm pretty sure that's what I remember, but Jekyll says, the moment I choose, I can be rid of Mr. Hyde. So does that mean like he can choose not to have that persona or something? Interesting. Jekyll asks Addison to help him for his sake when he's no longer here. Addison agrees and says, I promise. So, okay, I am on chapter 6. Horrific murder has happened. Basically, you know, this woman was having a stunning moment looking out the window. There was a full moon. She was thinking like she's never been more at peace with all men or thought more kindly of the world. Like she was loving her life. She's clearly in love, like she's just loving it. And then she sees pisshead Mr. Hyde and some other man. And she's like, what's going on? Yeah, he had a heavy cane in his hand. And all of a sudden he started becoming really angry, stamping his foot, brandishing the cane, and carrying on like a madman. And all of a sudden, the other gentleman was clubbed to death. And then Mr. Hyde trampled his victim underfoot. And his bones were audibly shattered. Horrific. I was not expecting this level of gore and, like, horror. Also, what's with Hyde's obsession with trampling? Such a random one. He really loves to trample, and I honestly don't even know what, like, because obviously usually, like, murderers have some sort of motive. And what is his motive? Killing a random man. So interesting. The body of the victim was carried away. They found a sealed and stamped envelope, and it was addressed to Mr. Addison. Terrifying. And then basically he, you know, is checking out the letter. Oh, sorry. They go to his home. They go to Mr. Hyde's home. There's an old woman who opens the door, and she is described to have an evil face. And she says, yeah, this is Mr. Hyde's home, but he's not here right now. And it has actually nearly been 2 months since she'd last seen him, like since yesterday. So very mysterious. And they look at his rooms and they're all like super fancy and stuff. Addison visits Dr. Jekyll. He's looking deadly sick. Interesting, because did he just kill someone the night before? Dr. Jekyll says, I don't care about Hyde, like I'm done with him. Addison asks if Hyde was the one who told him to write in his will about his disappearance. Dr. Jekyll says yes, And Artisan's like, I knew a team meant to murder you. Artisan gets this person to check his handwriting, like Mr. Hyde's handwriting. The clerk says that there's a resemblance between Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. And the chapter ends with Artisan thinking that Dr. Jekyll was forging for a murderer, but like I said, I think it's like they're the same person situation, so clearly that's probably why they have the same handwriting. Oh, I feel sorry for Dr. Jekyll. What's going on there? Clearly he's looking deadly sick because when he is Dr. Jekyll, he feels guilt for what he did as Mr. Hyde. Okay, I'm on chapter 7. Lanyon R.I.P. So basically, Dr. Jekyll was finally out of seclusion. He was loving life. He was hanging out with friends. His face seemed to brighten, and there was 2 months where he was at peace. But then he went back to, you know, his solitude. Artisan sees Lanyon. He literally says he had his death warrant written legibly upon his face. Yeah, he's not looking good. Lanyon says, I've had a shock and I shall never recover. It is a question of weeks. Well, life has been pleasant. I liked it. Yes, sir, I used to like it. He says, I'm done with Dr. Jekyll. I don't want to hear his name. I don't want to talk about him. So interesting. Obviously, I'm assuming that Jekyll had something to do with him suddenly becoming so sick. Lanyon even says to Artisan, someday after I'm dead, you may perhaps come to learn the right and wrong of this. And then Dr. Jekyll literally says, I mean from henceforth to lead a life of extreme seclusion. You must suffer me to go my own dark way. He says, I brought on myself a punishment and a danger that I cannot name. So clearly, yeah, he's clearly Mr. Hyde. Like, he's been doing the killing. He has this evil side to him. Anyway, so yeah, Dr. Lanyon's died. He finds a letter, and it's for the hands of J.G. Artisan alone. I really want to know Artisan's like first name. So J, what's up? And then it says, in case of his predeceased to be destroyed unread. So mysterious. Then he opens it, and there is another enclosure. And it says, not to be opened until the death or disappearance of Dr. Henry Jekyll. The absolute drama. I love it. So obviously I want to know what's going on in that letter. Artisan clearly has the curiosity, but he decides, you know, he needs to have the honor and faith to his dead friend. So he just keeps it in his safe. But seriously, I need to see what's in there. I mean, I'm assuming that he might say, like, the truth about Dr. Jekyll and how he clearly killed Lanyon. I also love the chapter titles. Like, the next chapter is Incident at the Window. That's me spying on my neighbours. Okay, so I'm currently in the middle of chapter 8. There's a lot happening. Enfield and Artisan are on their Sunday lads walk. Enfield's like, well, that story's at an end at least. We shall never see more of Mr. Hyde. That's what they think though. They go to visit Dr. Jekyll because they're like, seriously, I think he needs a friend. Dr. Jekyll's like, I'm very low. Very low. It will not last long, thank God. Which, what does that mean? But anyway. He's like, come on, like, you should totally come outside, like, have a walk with us. He's like, I would very much like to, but it's impossible. So they're like, okay, we can just talk to you from out here. So he's like, okay, yeah, I would like that. Dr. Jekyll smiles. Before the smile was struck, he had an expression of such abject terror and despair, and it froze the blood of Enfield and Artisan. And they were like, oh, and they just left. So clearly it was like a horrific expression. And Paul, who is Dr. Jekyll's butler, he says, I've been afraid for about a week. And he thinks that there's been foul play, and he's like, I really am concerned for Dr. Jekyll. He's been locked up in a cabinet, and he literally says, I don't know who's in there, I don't even know what's in there, like talking about Jekyll as a what or like an it. He says that there's a thing in that cabinet that cries to heaven, crying night and day for some sort of medicine. Yeah, terrifying, terrifying, terrifying. Then he sees Dr. Jekyll for like a second. He slipped out of the cabinet to look for his drug or whatever it is. And he looked up when Paul came in, gave a kind of cry and whipped upstairs into the cabinet. And Kate was like, oh! Run. And he had a mask on apparently. And it says, if it was my master, why did he cry out like a rat and run from me? Anyway, and then Artisan's like, no, there's a simple explanation. Like, you know, it's simply because he's experienced something that has affected his form and his mind and all of that. And he just wants to be like in his closet. Paul's like, that thing was not my master, and there's the truth. And he says that he believes that it's Mr. Hyde and that Dr. Jekyll was murdered. Artisan says, okay, I will break down that door. I shall make it to my business to see you are no loser. pulls out, okay, there's an axe in the theatre. Firstly, why the hell is there an axe in the theatre? But anyway, so they're going to bash down that door. Utterson's like, Jekyll, I demand to see you. He's totally gonna bust it down. Okay, so they knocked down the cabinet and a man is twitching on the floor, and it's Mr. Hyde. And he's dressed in clothes far too large for him. Clothes that were the size of Dr. Jekyll. So clearly, I obviously don't know what's going on right now, but maybe he takes a drug that like makes him go bigger. I don't know. Anyway, what's going on? Yeah, I think he's dead. And there's no trace of Dr. Jekyll. How big is this cabinet? Seriously, it says they're looking at the contents of the cabinet and there's traces of chemical work at one table.
Whoa.
What's going on? Oh!
What?
Ooh, the like will thing. Oh my god, that is so scary. Oh, Gabriel! Gabriel John Utterson.
Gabriel John!
Gabriel. Oh my god. Okay, so in the cabinet they find a letter. In the envelope addressed to Mr. Utterson, Hyde's name is crossed out and instead now says Utterson. Oh my god, the drama, the drama. My dear Utterson, when this shall fall into your hands, I shall have disappeared. Under what circumstances I have not the penetration to foresee, but my instincts and all the circumstances of my nameless situation tell me that the end is sure and must be early. Go then and first read the narrative which Lanyon warned me he was to place in your hands, and if you care to hear more, turn to the confession of your unworthy and unhappy friend.
No, I love how he finishes the sentence of the last sentence of the letter with the name.
Yeah. Oh my god, so he's gonna open that letter. Seriously, what's going on? He's gonna read the two narratives in which this mystery was now to be explained. Exactly. Okay. I just read the second last chapter, so I'm on chapter 10, which is the final chapter. So it was Lanyon's letter. Basically, Lanyon got a letter from Dr. Jekyll saying, like, can you please help me do this thing? Go to this place, get the potion, deliver it, blah, blah. So he got it. And then this weirdo shows up, and it's Mr. Hyde. And he's like, yes, so apparently you have what Dr. Jekyll needs. Can you give it to me, please? Give it to me, Rachel. So Lanyon's like, okay, but he also wanted to see what the hell was going on. So he gives it to him. Mr. Hyde takes the potion. He cries. And then he changes. He swells. His features begin to melt. He gets bigger, and suddenly Lanyon's like, oh god! Oh god! Standing right there before him, like a man restored from death, there stood Henry Jekyll! Yeah, so that's crazy. I didn't realize it was this situation. I thought it was like, they kind of looked the same and he kind of changed his appearance a bit. But I didn't realize it was like a potion where he would literally change his appearance like that. So I'm really excited to see his explanation because what the hell? What the hell's going on there?
Yeah, that's not the end of it.
That's not the end of it! Anyway, so Lanyon sees this and obviously he's like, what the hell? He's shocked, he's traumatized, his life was shaken. He said, sleep has left me. And he's like, yeah, I must die. So yeah, that's why he dies. But that's crazy. Also, Caitlin has finished and she gave it
5 stars. I absolutely...
Exactly. Hang on, I want to know what Utterson's reaction was. Is there a movie?
Yes, there's definitely a really old black and white one. I'll investigate what else is going on.
Okay, something. Because I can just, like, imagine Utterson reading the letter. Imagine, like, the modern day equivalent, like, not a letter, it's like a video, and it's like, he literally was screaming like a rat, and then all of a sudden, he was Henry Jekyll.
No, literally, it would be like video diaries. That's so funny.
Man is not truly one, but truly two.
Yeah. Literally buckle up.
Okay. I have finished Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, so let's talk about it. The last chapter, the letter from Jekyll, and he ultimately kills himself, yet leaves this letter. So basically, oh my god, it's terrifying. It really is terrifying. So he says as he's growing up, he thinks that man is not truly one, but truly two. So obviously, he feels he has this evil side to him and thinks everyone does. You know, he's a doctor, he likes to experiment, all of that. And he discovers a way to transform into someone else. So basically he has he has a potion, and he thinks men are made of good and evil, and by drinking the potion he is able to completely be his evil self, which is Edward Hyde. I'd love to know how he came up with that name, because he just says like, oh, that's Edward Hyde, but like, how did he come up with the name? Anyway, yeah, so he says Edward Hyde is pure evil. Clearly. And he thought it was funny. Like, when he was first doing this, he's like, I smiled at the notion. It seemed to me at the time to be humorous. He was clearly having a crack up. Like, he thought it was a silly moment. There's nothing silly about it. It's serious. He thinks he's this evil genius because he's like, oh my god, I didn't even exist. Like, I could do evil things as Edward Hyde and then turn into Dr. Jekyll and be a respectable person in society, and no one suspects me of any crimes. Anyway, he goes to bed as Henry Jekyll and wakes up as Edward Hyde. And he's like, oh. He's like, what the hell's going on? He's looking at himself and he obviously sees Hyde and he's like, oh my god. So Edward Hyde is slowly taking over. Yeah, he says, I began to spy a danger that if this were much prolonged, the balance of my nature might be permanently overthrown, the power of voluntary change be forfeited, and the character of Edward Hyde become irrevocably mine. I was slowly losing hold of my original and better self and becoming slowly incorporated with my second and worse. Actually, horror! And he says, between these two, I now felt I had to choose. Okay, terrifying line. My devil had long been caged. He came out roaring! Oh my god, that is actually chilling. And then it says, instantly the spirit of hell awoke in me and raged. Actually terrifying. So he says he voluntarily stripped himself of the balancing instincts by which even the worst of us continues to walk with some degree of steadiness among temptations. So yeah, he just completely is Hyde, and it's terrifying as well because he describes that he feels gleeful when he is killing, tasting delight from every blow. Even that innocent kid, like literally what did that kid do? Obviously lots of horrific moments, but that kid scene specifically, that's gonna haunt me for the rest of my life. Like, what do you mean? Like, and do they show that in the movie? I hope not. That is actually traumatizing. Yeah, so as he's writing the letter, he's like, this is the last time that Henry Jekyll can think his own thoughts or see his own face, which is actually altered. So he's like, if I wrote this letter and became Hyde, like he would just rip it up. He says, I bring the life of that unhappy Henry Jekyll to an end. So he kills himself. So that's the end. And what did Utterson think? We don't even get his reaction, which, you know, I do like that kind of like open-ended thing, but what is Edison thinking? I mean, obviously he's shocked, but like, what a fun book. I think I want to read some essays, because one of my favorite things about reading classics is the amount of information online you can find about it. So I love to read a fun essay on it. I love any written piece on the book. So I'm going to read some stuff about it and maybe I'll come back and give some more thoughts, but I loved it. 5 stars. Yeah, I think there's so much to analyze, obviously, and I love how like each sentence clearly is written with intent. Like, it's not just like a throwaway line. Like, if this was another book that was like 88 pages, like I would have read it so quickly, but because there's just so much within each sentence, like I really took my time. And yeah, I loved it.
No, it's so interesting, right? Because there are just so many reveals, like the reveal in the Henry Jekyll like story time, and where he's
Story time.
He's like, it's not like he was powerless or that it just happened to him. It's like he always felt like he had that part of him. Like, okay, and he seems so lovely and happy, and he was like besties with the tree. I'm like, right. It just becomes this question of like, what is lurking inside people? Like, yeah, there are artisans, but there are also Jekylls and therefore Hydes. And like, what does it mean?
I don't think I have Hyde inside me. What about you?
I think not Hyde, but like, even just how recently there's been the trend to think of being like, everyone being like, oh, like intrusive thought, or like whatever, you know, like we all think weird things sometimes, I think.
Yeah, but I feel like that's the difference. Like, the intrusive thought is like, that's not your actual thought, but it's just, oh, what was, like, because you question it, you're like, well, without, like, you don't actually believe it. Yeah. But then it seems like he clearly had those intrusive thoughts, but actually agreed with them as well. You know, like,
yeah.
Like, what if I just killed that person right now? I was like, no, but seriously, what if I actually, like, you know?
Yeah. No, it's really interesting as like, I guess, like a bit of a commentary on where like mental health was at that point as well.
I was thinking about that this whole time.
And obviously mental health is like physical health, because a lot of the time it's from the brain, which is part of our bodies, obviously. But like what was known versus not known, or like thought at that point, and like he just was like, yeah, I'm gonna write this book, and it's like, oh yeah, there's a potion, but like, was the potion just like a placebo? Was he, did he like create, because if he's known his whole life he had that part of him, like it must have existed, and like has he just been repressing and like kind of going crazy over it, and then the potion was his way of like letting him become that person. So it's like you never had control over it, like the control from the potion was the illusion, or like, you know, like what?
Yeah.
True. I just love a book that like leaves you with more questions than answers. It's just so fun.
The terrifying duality that lies in us all. That is such a good cover though. Like I love that. The whole like, do not perceive me when I am Hyde right now.
If he be Mr. Hyde?
No, I'll be Mr. Sick. Okay, so it has been a week or so, maybe even 2 weeks since I finished Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, and I've thought about it so much since. Specifically, just like the whole finding him in the closet. It's just such an interesting story. So I did read a few pieces on it, and if you have any other essays or written pieces on the text, please send it to me, because like I said, I would love to read about it. Yeah, I looked more into the mental health aspect of the book, and schizophrenia was not coined yet. Dissociative identity disorder was not coined yet. So it's really interesting to think about, was it a DID situation? Was it a schizophrenia situation? But also I am not fully educated on those disorders, so maybe I'm being stupid, so let me know. But yeah, it's very interesting to think about. But I did read that Jekyll and Hyde was the first idea in fiction to kind of talk about multiple personalities, and that's why I knew already that they were most likely the same person, because I've heard people in media say, oh, it's like a Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde situation. So yeah, very, very interesting. People were also saying that there's also interpretations that the story not only focuses on the duality of humans, but the duality and contradictions that exist in society. And I read this essay that said the fact that Hyde enters and leaves Dr. Jekyll's house through the back door seems as a metaphor for the evil that lies behind the facade of civilization and refinement, which I thought was quite interesting. I also read a piece that said, labeling Mr. Hyde as a troglodyte, it seems like the author is trying to make a comment on the theories of evolution, and that he considered Hyde a savage, uncivilized, and given to passion, poorly evolved. So Mr. Hyde represents a regression to an earlier, less civilized and more violent phase of human development. So very, very interesting. Please let me know all of your thoughts. This is such an interesting book to discuss. My battery is flashing. But next month we're buddy reading Rebecca, which I am extremely excited for. I'm so excited to continue the classics vibes. Perfect for October, and I have already seen some of the bunnies here say that they've read this multiple times, so I'm hoping that becomes one of those books where I want to read it multiple times and I'm obsessed with it, because that would be amazing, and I'd love to find a new favourite. But yeah, I'm so excited to read Rebecca with you all, and thank you for being here and being part of my book club. It's one of the most fun aspects of my life. I absolutely love just reading with you all and being able to discuss the books that we read together. But yeah, I appreciate you all. I hope you're doing well, and I'll hopefully see you in my next video.